PPP. It was one of the greatest defaults in the history of the unified working class movement in this country. And for that, of course, he was expelled from the PPP and his reputation was tarnished. Your members will also not forget Jane Phillips Gay, the first secretary of the union, a woman who did her work diligently and who went on to become one of the first women to enter our parliament in 1953. She and two others, three of them, Miss Burnham and Mrs. Jarrett. Her contribution to the union cannot be forgotten, and in later life, what she did, she was succeeded by Philomena Sahoy, who also made an important contribution in the same office as secretary of the GAWU. Also not to be forgotten is Mr. Ramkaran, not this one, the father of the speaker, who started as an employee in the transport services of this country, but was one of the founding members of the PPP and became, in 1957 and later, a minister in the PPP administration, and he was also the general secretary of the GAWU, and helped tremendously in the establishment of the first labor institution, first college, if you may put it that way, labor college of this trade union when it was in Regent Street, which you heard was destroyed by fire. So for those persons, I think those who are entering the college will have a lot to learn from. The college, I have no doubt, ought to have a good library. Good library is essential. The history of many trade unions has been written, and the college ought to have the books containing the history of trade unions in the United Kingdom, where the movement started, also in the Caribbean, in Canada, and in the United States of America and other places. And I have no doubt and hope it would take up the offer of the Minister of Education in introducing and promoting IT skills so that the best use could be made of facilities for learning what other trade unions have done and ensuring that progress is made in the field of trade unionism. Mr. Master of Ceremonies, ladies and gentlemen, a lot has been said about the union movement, and I think I can save time by quoting from a work on trade unionism, which was published affecting the entire trade union movement, not here but also in the Caribbean. It is called Glimpses of the Growth of Trade Unions in the Commonwealth Caribbean. Its publication is due largely to two unions in Canada, in Alberta, Canada, the Union of Public Employees as well as the Union of Provincial Employees. They made substantial contributions to the publication of that work. I wish to quote from pages 80 to 82 of that book, and I have the permission of the author of that book to do so, author of whom is Cde Ashton. It said, some training in economics, logic, public relations, and organizing takes place for those operating at higher levels. Such training has been both local and overseas. Among local sources, the extramural department of the University of the West Indies, UWI, made a useful input in the early days. Many trade unions run their own training courses. Some get assistance in so doing from the central bodies, ministries of labor, and from Caribbean bodies of which they are members. Help in this respect has also come from trade unions outside of the Caribbean. In Jamaica, under the auspices of the UWI, Institute of Industrial Relations, courses are available. The Institute has been under the able guidance of Rex Nettleford of Jamaica, a great colleague who died recently, to whom due respect is due. I continue to quote. The Institute has been in Barbados. The Barbados Workers Union has set up the Barbados Workers College. In Trinidad and Tobago, there is the Cipriani Labour College, and in Guyana, there is the Critchlow Labour College, which help train union cadres. Courses on labor relations, public speaking, economics, industrial relations, collective bargaining, to name a few, are offered at these colleges. In territories mentioned, it was felt that the need for labor colleges arose out of the expanded role and duties of trade unions. Leaders who are deeply aware of the problems and fortunes of the trade union movement and who can make a special input towards the social and economic growth are continually acquired. A labor college providing basic studies in the humanities and the social sciences, as well as specialized instructions in the theory and practice of trade unionism, goes a far way to satisfy this need. The colleges are designed, A, to promote trade union training and workers' education at all levels of trade union duties, B, to conduct courses, seminars, and other activities in the field of industrial relations, C, to undertake research into problems affecting the labor movement and industrial relations. The thrust of this approach is reformist. It hinges on an acceptance of trade unions as an integral part of the democratic society, with its existence and development being socially desirable, and that collective bargaining is the logical and effective process in a free society. Further, that industry, both private and public, must cooperate effectively and profitably, and that conflict of interest of employers, both private and public, and workers, can be harmonized by mature and well-informed management and make trade union officers, particularly where they are assisted by enlightened labor legislation. Critics of the last assumption say that in the long run it is pointless for so long as ownership, production, and distribution are organized on private lines. The conflict between the two classes, private employers and workers, cannot be harmonized. They contend that only when ownership, production, and distribution are socially owned, and that management and non-management workers will have the same basic goal of working for the good of the community as a whole, thereby removing the conflict of interest, the argument of the labor college founders. The critics in the trade union movement do not accept that the interests of private management and labor, given the existing form of social organization, can be compatible with the interests of all, and that both have a duty to the nation. And then the article goes on to show that from the colleges in the Caribbean benefited from the ILO, of whom we had a distinguished speaker this afternoon. And Max Swirlow was sent here to help in Trinidad as well as in Vienna, and it also